What's up, folks? Welcome back to the channel. Boozer here. Thanks for stopping by. In today's video, we're going to be talking about my brand new, at least for me, my Trunda team here, and also a brand new personal best for this team. I'm going to go over it in a bit more detail and show you guys exactly what I did to basically 5x. I 5x'd my personal best, my previous personal best. But I want to give a big shout out to my clanmates from the Omega Centurion cluster. Shout out to OC Wrath. Especially for JD and a couple of my members for helping me out, just brainstorming and giving me some ideas on what I could do to improve my team. But honestly, a lot of it comes down to manual play and just being more familiar with what I need to do and how to get more damage from this team. So as you guys may or may not know, Hydra was changed late, in the winter time last year, about November, I think. But they had a big change going on, and basically what happened was that the Hydras now had limited damage that they can take while decapitated. Once they hit their damage threshold while decapitated, they respawn, and they would come back with something called the Serpent's Will buff. So this buff, so you see here on the red head, the head of Wrath, you see that little protected buff that it has. Basically, it mitigates 100% of the damage it takes. You can still debuff it, but it mitigates all the damage. So the problem here is that Trunda teams previously were able to basically do insane amounts of damage by basically having no damage cap against decapitated heads. So you can just do ridiculous amounts of damage. And then once heads respawn, you can still blow them up because they still took damage once they respawn. So now there's actually a noticeable gap in your gameplay when dishing out damage. So first of all, you want to basically limit the amount of damage that you waste on heads that have this Serpent's Will buff on them when they are freshly respawned. So here we actually see only one head has a Serpent Wills, and then we have 3 heads that don't. This is kind of like a better scenario, right? And obviously you want to use your big Trunda A2 against the decapitated heads, because that's where all the big damage is coming from, like 10-folds basically. So using the A2 against the decapitated heads obviously makes sense, right? That's where all your big damage numbers will be coming from. So even if you had, spawned heads, active heads without the Serpent's Will buff, you don't really want to blow off your A2 against them if you can help it. But you can definitely use it to pop them so that you can set up your decapitated heads, but you need to be able to basically come back to your Trunda's A2 when they're all decapitated. So here I used my Trunda's A2, blow them all up, and then I had my Kaimar reset the Trunda, and then she was able to A2 the decapitated heads. And then you kind of just rinse and repeat. The other thing you could do is use Trunda's A3. Her A3 was improved after the whole Trunda mix. So you see here, she used her A3, and then they were able to pop the heads, decapitating him, basically allowing your Trunda to set up the A2 again. So you basically do this cycle of A2, A3, and obviously mix in your reset to get some extra hits in. Now, gone are the days where you can basically reset over and over your Trunda's A2 to deal maximum damage against decapitated heads. So you can only basically use one A2 and then all the heads respawn. You kind of see there, they just respawn after one single A2. So you can kind of definitely, make things work without constantly having reset champions. So it's a little bit easier in that regard to kind of make teams, at least for me. So previously I was running champions like Countess Lix, Emic. Both of them have reset skill cooldowns, like 1-turn cooldown resets. But Kaimar here is a full reset. I replaced both of them with just a single Kaimar. The other thing that's noticeably missing from this team that probably led to a huge improvement was the lack of decreased speed. I actually got rid of Countess Lix, who brought decreased speed, and I got rid of her because the big thing with decreased speed is that the Hydra heads are too slow. And one of the big things, the big bottleneck, is the Serpent's Will buff. What you want to do is have the heads get out of that buff as soon as possible. And putting the decreased speed on them kind of is counterintuitive to what you want to happen. You want them out of that buff ASAP so you can do your damage. You don't want decreased speed on them, have your own team waste turns waiting for them to get off of that buff. So you can kind of see here, we don't even have decreased speed in this entire team, and it works perfectly good. All right. You notice that very often that there's actually 2 heads decapitated, 2 active heads. So we can always have an opportunity to deal damage, right? This rotation wasn't necessarily super friendly to Trunda, I think, but it wasn't necessarily bad. What I mean by that is like having too many force heads, for example, is actually bad, because that means it increases the odds of you having no viable, consistent target. Because if you're targeting a force head, there's always a chance that you weak hit, and then you don't do the max damage. So you kind of see here, Trunda gets eaten. She gets decapitated. She gets eaten first. So you have to have some kind of damage in your team to be able to free her. But if she gets eaten super late in the run, you might not be able to free her, and then that's the end of the run, and then you just have to redo it if you want the best results. This is a full manual run if you want it full best results. Trunda teams work pretty good, even with full auto. But obviously for best results, you want to manual them for sure. So in this setup, you can kind of see here, we have the one decapitated, which is force, but that's not ideal. And then we have the head of suffering, which is very tanky. But yeah, we got lucky there with the force head damage, still blowing up the head of wrath and the head of suffering. So here we got 3 decapitated heads. It's basically just our pickings here. We can definitely do a lot of damage here. We have our champions with decreased defense cruelty. We softened them up a little bit, and then we're going to go in with the big blast. And our blast is not ready, so we're going to use our A1 against the active head, trying to decapitate it. Of course, we want to save the A2 against the decapitated heads here. Here we go, boom. Hit, all 3 come back. This is exactly what you want. And then you reset, whole process happens again. So one of the big things that happened, like I said, with this team was that I substituted basically the decreased speed champion. I took the decreased speed out. That was the big thing that happened. The other thing that happened was I moved up a difficulty. So I went from hard difficulty with the previous best of about 1.1 billion damage, and I moved up difficulty to brutal difficulty, and yeah, you guys will be surprised at the overall output here. Significantly better. There's actually also other big difference here. I would say a big damage difference is that the Trunda picked up the relic, the coronet, the crown, the epic crown that gives you plus 30% damage for your debuffs. So that's why she's using her A3. Obviously her A3 is good as well because it makes her deal more damage. So using it is totally fine. Previously, like there are some builds where you just lock out the A3, but now the A3 is totally viable, so it's good. But yeah, we picked up the crown for Trunda. That's going to boost up her damage significantly. I did do a run on hard with the crown, and Trunda was doing more damage, but definitely not to this level of damage on this run in particular for brutal. So we can speed up here. Sometimes I would use the A3 against the decapitated heads because the A3 sometimes wasn't strong enough to kill all the decapitated heads. So you're just kind of putting in more and more damage, and then you set up for the A2, and then you do the overkill damage. A lot of it, yeah, like I said, a lot of it's just manual play. Just getting a feel for it, finding the right situation. Obviously, some people is not going to enjoy manual play, and yeah, it just doesn't work for some people. I can't imagine doing this on mobile, for example. Like, shout out to mobile players there. It's just a real time and time sync for everybody to do it on mobile. But yeah, the other thing that actually got changed in this team was actually Wixwell. I put in Wixwell because Wixwell is a consistent provoke against the head of decay. And I thought it was kind of needed because the head of decay, whenever it spawned, because of the Serpent's Will, it would always get a turn. And because of that, he would always, cleanse off. And then sometimes the cleanse off would be really bad because the head of decay would if it spawned with the head of blight, the poison head, if it spawned together, the head of decay is speed tuned basically just out of the box to cleanse, and then the head of blight would place the poison cloud. So that if that happens, that basically just kills your damage output. So if the poison cloud is out, that kills your damage output because that's 2 turns of no damage, which is really, really bad. So the Wixwell gives you a consistent provoke, right? So as soon as the head of decay spawns, you can use the Wixwell, control the head of decay, And that's just going to lead to a lot more consistent runs, higher output, and all that. So actually worked out really, really well here. And Wixwell in general is very good. He extends your buffs. He gives you, defense up. He gives you shields. And these are buffs that can be part of a protection, 9-piece protection set, which gives you additional damage. So he's not just a provoker. He's he's boosting your team's damage. He's increasing the buffs. He's placing, decreased attack on them as well. He can also be pretty good for like cruelty stacks. For example, you're going to apply cruelty with his AoE. But yeah, he's not, he's definitely doing a lot for his team. And with the addition of him, I definitely felt it, definitely boosting up my damage and just making it more consistent. All right, so we're going to speed up this run to the end, and I'm going to show you guys the team here and exactly what we're using. But I think you guys have a pretty good idea of what is happening. And yeah, well, let's jump through to the end. It's a pretty long run. Like I said, it's full manual, but you know what? You got to do it once a week, you get a good result, and we're happy with it, right? So I'll show you guys the result here. 3.47 billion damage on brutal difficulty. I'm like extremely happy about this result. Like I said, my previous best was 1.1 or 1.2 on hard difficulty. This was with Trunda with the Coronet Crown as well. So it's not the Coronet Crown doing all the damage here, but I think it was a mixture of, playing it properly, learning how to play, having to sub out for Prince Kaimar, losing the decreased speed, and then having Wixwell in there to permanently provoke the head of decay. Just led to a more consistent run. Lydia Gerbtuck Duchess was part of the Hydra hard team that I was using before. So I carried them over and then I upgraded to brutal. And then the Trunda is there. So Trunda is doing 3.1 billion damage in this team. And then we have Kaimar, Wixwell. Kaimar can be replaced, right? Kaimar is just here to reset the Trunda. I found that Kaimar was taking a lot more turns than was kind of necessary in some points. Like Kaimar, for example, was holding his seal of time. He was holding his seal of time rather frequently. So I thought maybe he's going a little bit too fast. And also you can probably use another champion instead. He doesn't need to be like a full reset champion. Maybe it could be, somebody else that does partial reset, which could work as well. But yeah, so that's the team. We're gonna go over the breakdown here a little bit, but really happy with this. And in terms of what I did after, I did actually change Trunda's 6-star blessing from Crushing Ren to Nature's Wrath, and that probably boosted up her damage a little bit. So here's my Trunda. She's in a 9-piece Merciless set. I find the Merciless set definitely helps, especially since we just have like a single reset, which is a single full reset. Sometimes you don't want to use a full reset for like one turn, for example. So the 9-piece does help, and sometimes you get kind of lucky and you get back-to-back AoEs, for example, to deal a lot of damage, or you can go A1 into the A2 for maximum damage, for example. But this is some of the best gear on my account in terms of Merciless gear. So I do move my gear, onto my champions when it's time to do my best runs. So 8.5k attack with, 237 speed, 370 crit damage. This is without the boost from my Hydra bonuses. So I'm going to use my Hydra bonuses here. 257 speed, 8.6k attack, 400 crit damage. She's 6-star fully blessed with a Nature's Wrath blessing. So she's one of the few champions that I have that are 6-star. I built her up from 1-star, obviously acknowledging that she is a main component in Hydra teams. I have to invest in this champion because I only really use her for Hydra. I don't use her in any other content, but of course the 6-star blessing definitely helps. So she's pretty good. 9-piece Merciless here. She got the crown. This is a pretty big damage boost. Wears damage increased by 1% each time they stack a debuff. So you want to stack it up. Use her A3, relatively quickly to start the stacks, and then she will start doing lots of damage. This is a great relic in general. It's an epic relic, but it's a great epic in general for champions that apply debuffs. So Ninja, for example, would be awesome for this as well. Mishinaki, for example, do have a couple little charms on her. They do a little bit of extra damage, but nothing too crazy. Fully booked, Nature's Wrath. Like I said, I replaced Crushing Ren with this. I think it's marginally better, maybe slightly better, but I don't think it's the big difference maker in terms of the damage difference. Helm Smasher, of course, on the tier 6 mastery. Stoke the Fury works really well if you have Grip Tuck because her damage increase for each debuff on her, and Grip Tuck just applies poisons to her. So that's kind of the mythology there, or the idea there. And yeah, so there it is. Show you guys the individual pieces. Attack, crit rate, crit damage, speed. That's kind of what you're looking for on some of these pieces. 237 speed. I don't want her too fast, basically taking laps around the Hydras. You don't really want that, of course. And here is probably the second MVP that I added to the team, which is like Wixwell. Like I said, Wixwell is here basically to control the Head of Decay, and he does a really, really good job of it. He is in a 9-piece protection set. So like I was saying, 9-piece protection so that you can get the additional bonuses from having the defense up buff and the shield buff, giving you some extra damage output. 282 speed with the Hydra bonuses. He's almost crit capped. This was not intentional. He does have resistance and accuracy just because he can be a mischief target. So he does protect a little bit of your buffs. Yeah, and not necessary for resistance, but there he is. He has more than enough survivability for Brutal Hydra. He has no blessings. Definitely can be improved for some more damage output. And yeah, Cruelty, like I said, Cruelty, good stacks. War Master for some additional damage to pitch in. Lasting Gifts to make the defense up and shield last a little bit longer. And then I went for some shield growth on his masteries just to help out the team a little bit since we don't have Unkillable and stuff like that. And then this is probably the second new addition that made a huge upgrade for the team. Prince Kymar. So Prince Kymar, I put him in a Merciless plus Curse set. So Curse gives him the ability to place Hex. Merciless gives him a chance to reset his cooldowns. You can kind of see here that he's not fully, not fully maxed out on his gear either. He also has a Refresh Ring. So Refresh Rings gives him a small percentage to basically neglect, basically full cooldown reduction on one of his skills. In terms of total stats, we're going to go for Hydra bonuses. 296 speed. He is crit capped. He has a little bit of damage, a little bit of accuracy to land his poisons, just to pitch in some damage. He was doing a bit of damage, but most of his damage is coming from Hex, of course. And yeah, great support champion here for the resets. No relic can do some more damage. Phantom Touch. He does have Flawless Execution, but this is part of another build. You don't want to put Flawless Execution on Kymar too often. You can put War Master on him, just to give some additional damage as well, but Flawless Execution was kind of here from another build. So that's Prince Kymar. Yeah, he has the chance to random reset one turn, and then he has the Refresh Ring for a chance to prevent cooldowns. Up next, we have Lydia. Lydia is going to be a 9-piece protection set. You could run Curse set on her as well, but 9-piece protection works pretty good just for the team-wide damage boost here. But Hex set works well on her as well. After the bonuses, we have 314 speed. We got enough accuracy. The rest of her stats don't really matter as long as she can survive. But yeah, she's here for the damage boost, as well as decreased defense and weaken. War Master for some additional damage to help out. Lasting Gifts for the increased speed and strengthen. Next up, we have Duchess. Duchess is in a 9-piece protection set. She will be applying her 9-piece protection bonuses. Buff bonuses to the whole team, making Trunda hit harder. In terms of everything, total stats, 352 speed, 5k defense after the Hydra bonuses. She has more than enough survivability to survive Brutal Hydra, and she's fast enough to get around to her veils and stuff quickly enough. And then, yeah, not too much going on with her. I don't really use her in other content. Here's Nourish for a continuous heal bonus, not really a big deal. And then masteries, I took Oppressor, which basically speeds it up if somebody dies, but you can kind of see from the run that nobody's dying. So yeah, it's kind of useless to be honest, but that's Duchess. Duchess can be replaced. Duchess can be replaced by Glaciate. Glaciate is a good replacement. She can also be replaced by, I believe I want to say somebody else. I forgot who, but she can be replaced by somebody else. She's there to cover Veil. Block debuffs. Plus attack. That's a big one. She's here for plus attack. So maybe somebody like Eostrid might work, because Eostrid could give you plus speed, plus attack. Somebody like that. But Eostrid might be too fast. That's the thing. Giving you plus turn meter might be too fast. But anyways, here's Gerptuck. Gerptuck, you know, pretty standard build, 9-piece. I went with 9-piece protection. I've seen some people go with like Merciless or Reflex Gear to get more of his poisons up. Protection gives him a little bit of damage from his A1 continuous heals. Granted, his A1s don't happen too often. They do give a little bit of a boost, you know, 5%, but it's just a little bit. After Hydra bonuses, 289 speed here, with enough accuracy to do stuff, and then enough survivability to stay alive. But that's about it. Obviously, he's here to enable more damage from Trunda with his poison buffs, and a little bit from his continuous heal and the 9-piece protection. Not necessary, of course. Definitely go for Reflex. Reflex or Merciless on him would work too, so you get more poisons. That totally works. But yeah, it depends what your gear is. But yeah, so that's going to be it for this team in this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully it was informative for you guys. But yeah, I'm really stoked. This is my new, you know, brutal team. It gives me, you know, decent damage output, all things considered. Hopefully I can improve upon it. That's the big thing. I want to improve upon it every week. But I'm really happy that we made the leap into brutal difficulty so that we can pump out a little bit more damage, and help out my clan basically. But that's gonna be it for the video. Like I said, not too many replacements. Duchess can be replaced. She's basically a support that offers, you know, buffs and 9-piece protection, so you can give more damage. Gerptuck can be replaced, but he's just like a damage enabler. Kamar can be replaced with a reset champion. Like I said, I was using Emic and Countess Lix. Countess Lix has a 1-turn reduction. Emic has a 1-turn reduction. So you can kind of use a mix and match of some of these champions. Like, you know, even Renegade can be used, to be honest. Lydia's really good because she brings buffs, debuffs all in one package. So she's really good for that as well. You could also use a champion like Lammasu. Lammasu has a single target reset and a turn meter boost. So you can reset Trunda, turn meter boost her to do more damage. I think that might be something that I want to play around with as well. But Lammasu does bring decreased speed. So that's also something that I want to maybe try not to apply. I don't know if it's going to be like a big deal, but I feel like having no decreased speed worked really well with the speeds that I have on the champion. So maybe if I had decreased speed, I can lower the speeds of my entire team and give more damage to Trunda. So if Trunda is 237 right now, base stats from gear, maybe I can lower her to like 200 if I had decreased speed on this team, and then I can pump up her damage even more. Right, so the more damage Trunda does, the more damage output your total team can do. So that might be something that I can consider in the future as well, just for an upgrade. But anyways, guys, like I said, hopefully this video was informative for you guys. Hopefully you guys learned something. Hopefully I can learn something. So if you guys got any tips for me, let me know in the comments below. I would love to learn how to improve upon this. But yeah, just want to share this team with you guys. Really happy with it and all that. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Appreciate your time as always. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next one.